What if I told you faith without works is dead? What if I told you faith activates, but the works brings it to fruition? What if I told you that you can have all the faith in the world, but if you don't put forth an effort, you would never accomplish the thing that you have faith for? This story that we're going to talk about today is going to hit home for a lot of people. Hopefully, it gives us the unction to want to start doing something in conjunction with our faith. Today, we're going to be talking about the woman with the 12 years of bleeding. You see, on the surface, it's just a woman on her menstrual cycle for 12 years. But it reaches far deeper than that. Let's get into it. Matthew chapter 9, verse 20 through 22. And behold, a woman who had suffered from a discharge of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. For she said to herself, if I only touch his garment, I will be made well. Jesus turned and seeing her, he said, take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well. And instantly the woman was made well. See, on the surface, we may think that this woman was desperate and she just wanted to touch Jesus because she thought she may be healed. The woman represents someone. The woman represents a nation. The discharge of the blood represents death. So this woman represents a nation that was dead. But it was the divine encounter with Jesus that saved her, restored her to whole. It's a foreshadowing of what's to come between humanity and Jesus on the cross. But it goes further than that. The account of the woman with the issue of blood is more than just a healing story. So we may look at it as a healing, but we must look at it as a restoration. Because there's a difference between healing and restoration. Restoration will restore you back to your original condition, to your original state. Healing is temporary. Restoration is permanent. So this restoration story that's being portrayed in this selection represents you and I. It represents the fall, but it also represents what Jesus came to do, to restore you and I. Let's think about restoration. Let's think about a 1935 Cadillac. The thing was in mint condition. Now, in order to restore this 1935 Cadillac, I'm just using that for example. I'm not sure if Cadillac was there at the time, during that time. But in order to be restored to that 1935 state, all of the original parts had to be put back in it. Now do you see why Jesus came to restore? Now do you see why this is a restoration story instead of a healing story? Jesus came to restore, put back everything that was discharged. He came to put it back in us, in you and I. This story is more than a healing story. It illustrates humanity's condition apart from Jesus Christ, apart from Christ, and the transformation that takes place when we shift our mindset and allow divine intervention to take over our situation. Humanity couldn't do it absent of the divinity. Humanity couldn't save themselves. It took divine intervention. and blood from this divine deity that allowed us to be restored. Humanity was walking around the earth lifeless. What do you mean? Because in Genesis 2 and 7, God breathed life into man, and then he became a living being. Humanity was alive, but not living. So we have to make the decision to allow God to intervene on our behalf. The restoration is there. We just have to be willing. We have to do what this woman did. For 12 years, this woman lived as an outcast under the Mosaic law. Religion said she was unclean. Jesus said she was healed. According to the Levitical regulations and the laws of that time, a woman in her menstrual cycle was considered ceremonially unclean. Just imagine. It's typically a week. Give or take a few days. But this lady, she was considered an outcast for 12 years. Now, do you see what's happening here? Now, do you see why it took divine intervention to save? This story portrays the entire ministry of Jesus. This one story. For 12 years, she was cast out. But then the king came and redeemed her. Anyone who touched her or came into close contact with her would also be considered to be unclean. Now watch this. This meant isolation, right? Cast off, thrown away, not only from society, but from family, friends, and religious fellowship. So do you see what's going on? The religious practices of the time created division. They had a religious elite class. The religious practices of that time threw up walls and division because they didn't see what was supposed to be seen. All they saw was what they saw. And since all they saw is what they saw, that's all that was seen. Jesus continued to tell the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes and the Sanhedrin council to go back and read the law, the Old Testament scripture. He said, go back and learn what you thought you knew, because they didn't understand it. Divine intervention, not humanism, is the path to restoration. So she was cut off from the synagogue and the temples. She was cut off from friends. She was cut off from family. That means she couldn't go into the shopping centers. She couldn't purchase anything. She couldn't work anywhere. She couldn't do anything because she was considered to be unclean. Easily forgotten about. But Jesus did not forget her. Jesus showed her love. Jesus showed her restoration. Then we come to a critical detail. She said to herself, this inner dialogue was the catalyst that ignited her faith. She said to herself, if I just get close to him, if I just get close to life itself, I will be restored. Does that sound familiar? faith and works are beginning to form and go forth. She took it upon herself to press past every barrier, every ritual, every tradition, and every religious constraint to get into the presence of Jesus. Are you willing to push through everything, all of the opposition, all of the obstacles, all of the potholes, all of the sinkholes, all of the storms, all of the rain? Are you willing to push past all of that to get in the presence of Jesus? This woman is displaying not only restoration, but also showing us that we have a part to play also. She humbled herself, bowing low to touch the very fringe of his garment. See, at this time, they had tassels on their robes, and those tassels on a robe represented divine intervention. Those tassels represented the divine, and it was necessary that we must pursue divine intervention in earthly affairs. And she went to go touch, she pushed past all of that, all of the snickering, all of the people running away from her, all of the people talking about her, everything going against her. She just pushed through and pushed through so that she can touch the garments of Jesus, symbolizing both reverence for who Jesus is, but also a desperation for healing, for the touch to heal her, because religion couldn't do it, because religion ostracized her, forgot about her, and casted her away. Not only did religion do this, but everything did it. Her act revealed the perfect union of faith and works. The perfect union of faith and works. Watch this. She believed and she moved. I want to say that again. Faith and works are being on full display right here. She believed and she moved. As James 2:17 reminds us, faith by itself, it does not have works. If it does not have works, it is dead. When Jesus declared your faith had made you well, he confirmed that her belief activated the miracle. The faith activated it, but the going made it come to pass. You can faith all you want, but if you don't take the step forward, that faith will just be faith. Faith is good. Faith is necessary. But as it's being displayed in this story, we must operate with faith and works in conjunction with one another. If she had believed that she would have not been healed, that would have been her reality. I want to say that again. If she wouldn't have believed that she could be healed, that would have been true. But there's two sides to that. Because she believed that she could be healed, that became her reality. I'm here to tell you today, a lot of things are not happening in our lives because we're not operating in faith and we're not operating by going. So you're stuck in a rut and you believe that that's where you belong. Whatever you believe becomes your reality. If you believe you can come out of that storm, guess what? You're already out of it. If you believe that mortgage is going to get paid, that rent is going to get paid, it's going to be. But if you're letting the phone calls from the bill collectors tell you that it's going to be disconnected and repoed and evicted, foreclosure, if If you believe that, if you allow the extenuating circumstances, if you're allowing the circumstances and the situations to dictate the way you think, whatever they make you think is true. Why not have faith? Have faith in those situations. If she had believed she would not be healed, that would have been her reality. Faith activated the miracle, but the works made it happen. The world and religion may discard, ignore, or forget you. But watch this. But God will not. In an instant, her healing came. With one word from Jesus, a new law was written on her behalf, and that's called favor. When the king does something for you, that's favor. What had defined her for 12 years was overturned in a moment. She came to him in a state of death, but one encounter with the king brought her into life. So this lady, this woman, was walking dead, carrying death, but she pressed through to get into the presence of life itself. And in an instant, she was restored. Times have changed. It's time to operate in faith and in works. Shift your mindset. Start walking in the kingdom of heaven today. And if you believe it, it's true. Thank you all. I love you all. Thank you for tuning in. And to